Eleven Dubcast. I'm Johnny. He's George, back for another summer edition of the 11 Dubcast. How are you hanging in? Is the summer doing all right by you, Mr. Eisner?
It's getting hot. It's like, 100 degrees almost every day.
Yeah, 99% humidity, I'm sure, down in Charleston.
And even in the off season, the heat continues to rise in the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, does it not?
That's right. I like the segue. I wanted to also complain about it being so hot in Columbus. It's like 95. It just sucks the past couple days. It really hasn't been that bad this summer. It's just been like super humid and gross. But yeah, let's talk about Ohio State, Michigan, because just honestly, the gift that just keeps on giving. It really, we'll start with a couple of comments and then really get into, I think, what has evolved into our bellwether Cal, right? Like it's really just kind of our, it's
the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. It's the fountain
From
of eternal content. We'll get into that in a second. And then we've got some other things to talk about. But first of all, I do love the fact that it's the middle of July and you do have Ohio State and Michigan players, well, future players, I guess, on the part of Michigan, but talking smack. So Jeremiah Smith said that over the next 2 years, Ohio State will not lose to Michigan. He says, quote, "I will not lose to them," which is like a very confident thing to say in the middle of July, but also something that you want to hear from a guy who's potentially the best player in college football. And then that's also very convenient because just 5 days later, you had a Michigan cornerback commit, Dorian Barney, saying, "I will not lose to Ohio State." So one of these men will be wrong, right? Like one of them is going to be incorrect, and their assumptions about who's going to lose to who. But in the midst of all that, right? Like we're getting some nice off-season red meat in the rivalry. We've got Connor Stalions really just like pushing the limits of Twitter characters, right? Like how many you can put in a tweet, and goes on this big rant about how much, like, Ohio State, how much of their intel was done, and this is all in response to Sonny Dykes saying that TCU
I was going to say, I think the sequencing here is important to explain for those that aren't privy to it.
Well, you wrote The Weekender, so go ahead and can you explain the sequence of events like Connor Stalions to basically just let the cat out of the bag?
I would be more than happy to. So the story begins with, our favorite Amazon shopping cart detective, Brett McMurphy, posts a new story
That's right.
with new quotes from TCU coach Sonny Dykes, where he's not really saying anything new in terms of what we already knew that TCU knew in advance about Michigan sign stealing. We already knew that they were tipped off. We already knew
that's not news. Yeah.
Right. And we already knew they took evasive action in terms of kind of rearranging some stuff and playing off of what they knew that Michigan knew in order to exploit Michigan's over-reliance on the enemy intel, which then created several big plays for TCU in that game that ultimately put it out of reach and permitted TCU to go to the national championship in the 2022 college football playoff. The only reason it was a new item was because there were just new quotes from Sonny Dykes about it, even though none of the information itself was new. Right. In that sense, it kind of was a recycled story. So kudos to Brett McMurphy for also falling into the trap of needing something to write about during the offseason, as we are all familiar with.
Lean times. You got to do what you got to do, man. I get it.
But the fact that it is a recycled story and, frankly, a fairly weak story, and one that happened 3 years ago, and one that doesn't really matter in the hindsight of, I shouldn't say hindsight, but relative to the fact that, Michigan's gone on to win a national title since then. So if you're a Wolverine fan, should you really be still preoccupied with that result? It should make you wonder, like, the only way that a story like that should elicit a strong emotional reaction is if that result is something that you are still embarrassed about.
Right.
And so that story posts Friday morning. And then at 12:45 a.m. Saturday morning, Friday night, Connor Stalions, for the first time on X, responds to that story with a very, nothing more than like a sentence in terms of how it's a recycled story and people should be putting it to bed and whatever. But then he goes on a 6-paragraph rant. He fires them off he writes 6 paragraphs in 7 minutes.
Right.
What I called a junior manifesto. So if he was able to fire off that much that quickly about this subject, you can only imagine what is going on in that 1,000-page Google Doc he's got in the official grand manifesto that I can only hope will somehow see the light of day, but probably never will. And in that, he makes a ton of just like bizarre and wild admissions. Most people have focused on the fact that he alluded to at least 7 games against opponents like Michigan State and Georgia and Ohio State.
They had all the
where he claimed he had all the signals.
Signs. Right.
My personal favorite, because this just speaks to his ego and why this story about TCU bothered him to begin with, is that he said he was, quote, never fooled by anyone. I've never had anybody put one over on me. I am the omnipotent Stalions.
Right.
But even in my omnipotence, I also had no impact whatsoever on Michigan success.
And don't remember any of the games I may or may not have attended.
I'm so brilliant, but the only thing more brilliant than myself is the Michigan football program that didn't even need my brilliance to succeed.
Right.
But the other really irregular thing about this was that he, I phrased it as he's jumped, and I think it's appropriate given, the military background of the mystifying Stalions, has been more than willing to jump on grenades for his fellow Wolverines in order to protect the image of the program.
Right.
He criticized the players in the games that they lost in terms of saying that they turned the ball over too much and that their tackling wasn't effective enough. It was very irregular behavior for a guy who had been so staunchly program first up to this point. It was just unhinged. I use the word unhinged in the headline of the story, and I understand that is a little hyperbolic. That being said, for the standards of how Stalions has behaved in communicating his perspective on this was not a measured response. Right. And it came to something that really shouldn't have elicited a strong emotional reaction anyway. It was very much a highly irrational telling on yourself moment from him on early Saturday morning.
So here's the thing. So I've seen people talk about this online in the sense that, like, why are you saying all this? Why are you basically admitting that Michigan did all this sign stealing, stuff like that? I don't think that's how Connor Stalions views it. I think what he's doing, and the reason why he goes on a 1 a.m. rant about all of this stuff, is because his whole brand at this point is to wander on to podcasts and then shows and stuff like that, and basically kind of like continue to sell himself as this sign like reading savant, right? Because if you watch the thing on Netflix, that was basically the whole premise that he and his family and his friends kind of laid out, that he's not doing anything wrong, he's just so damn good at his job. And so when Sonny Dykes comes out and says, hey, they're not that good, we just figured out that they were doing it and then we tweaked it and then they were like lost in the woods, like they had no idea what to do, that makes him look bad, right? That makes Connor Stalions look bad at his job, that he wasn't able to compensate for whatever tweaks that TCU had for him. And so that's why he got upset, not because he thought he had to defend the integrity of Michigan or to make sure nobody thought there was sign stealing. He wants people to still think that he's some kind of genius.
He felt his ego was attacked. That's why my favorite part of what he said is he's never been fooled by anyone.
Right, exactly. Which has nothing. Right, it's apropos of absolutely nothing, and that's why he said that, because he's trying to protect his own ego, his own reputation. It's really stupid because, again, this is like, I don't know, this is a total like Dickensian kind of a character arc for this guy. You know what I mean? Where it's like this.
I've never heard that term. No.
Well, he's like, he's like a street rat, and he's trying to like con his way up the ladder. Like great expectations. Like the guy's he's trying to like be something that he's really not. He wants to be in this club of elite type coaches. And he's not going to get there.
Oh yeah,
and he's not going to get there because he's ultimately just a dude who broke NCAA rules to obtain, practice footage and game footage and things like that. And honestly, dude, and if Connor Stalions is somehow for some reason listening to this, you're disposable. Okay. They could have gotten anybody to do that. You stepped up to the plate and said you would, and that's awesome. All right. But
I feel like most well-adjusted individuals would not go to the lengths that he did to
probably not
scrub the information that he ultimately.
But my point is that he sold himself as some kind of like military intelligence genius to Michigan. They're like, oh my God, this guy is like, he's the crypto analyst who's going to come in and, he's just a dude who filmed games. Like that doesn't make him a genius. And I know he really wants people to believe that, but it's, he's the guy, and that's okay. But like when his brand is being threatened like that, he's going to respond like that on Twitter. Like that's basically it. That's my take on the situation.
Oh, so then the last element of the story is there's an Ohio State fan that calls him out and says, look, if you provided no value to your team, why did you get a game ball?
Right.
From the staff? Like, why did you intentionally break NCAA rules? It's also extremely like, we all know that you were on the CMU sideline. Even people like David Portnoy have not only admitted that, but they've even said that you have told them it was you.
Right.
So like, what do you have to say about all that stuff? And then his response was, I'd love to answer your questions, but unfortunately I'm not allowed to discuss details of an ongoing investigation, but I look forward to the truth coming out.
Okay.
And it's like, well, what did you just do? Like
right.
30 minutes before this, in that diet manifesto you put, a couple replies above this one.
That's what I'm saying. It's all about defending his rep. And
no, there was much less rhyme and reason here than there was in his sophisticated sign stealing scheme. This was just pure passion and emotion.
Yeah. Well,
the punished Stalions.
Look, we still have, I think it's like 30 or so days, 60 or so days before. I think it's 60 or some days, like almost 60 days.
It's a little under 60.
Yeah, before the NCAA timeline runs out and Michigan has to face the music, and we'll see exactly what's what after almost 2 years, really, of this, which is hilarious.
I ran the math on it today. Actually, the last day that it could come down is 2 days before the Oklahoma game. That is when, that's why they delayed Sharon Moore's suspension. So that would be great if it comes out 2 days before they're supposed to go do that.
It would be perfect. I would die laughing. And
especially if Moore doesn't end up getting to coach that after they, structured his punishment in a way where it's like, no, we're going to let you have your moment that you earned. But we also, we can't do nothing. So here's your letter of admonishment.
Right.
Naughty.
They'll suspend him for 2 games nobody cares about, and then the NCAA swoops in and suspends him for the game they do care about.
I thought they were going to suspend him the first and the third game. And then I didn't look into it until after I had actually published the story, but it is actually the third and the fourth game. And I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I guess that would be a little too on the nose. If they were like, if they tried to do
obvious. That's too obvious. We can't do that.
If they split up the punishment, it's like, no, you got to miss 2 consecutive games. But
that'll make it look.
We'll let you do the first 2 games just so you can get your wings under you, and then we'll sequester you.
Right.
Until until October.
Yeah,
But
the whole thing's very silly, and I mean, part of me honestly just kind of wants it to be done with, in the sense that I want to see. I mean, I want to see what happens, but also like the narrative at this point has gotten so tiresome, where it's like people are just kind of half-assedly rehashing everything that they've already heard, because there's nothing new that's coming out. So the next 60 days are really going to be just like a slog, like until this thing like actually breaks and we find out what the NCAA is going to do. It's just going to be people rehashing the same stuff over and over. So I do appreciate Michigan and Ohio State players talking that smack, right? Talking their truth on a public forum, and then Connor Stalions getting the dander up at 1 a.m. in the morning and posting on Twitter, because that's what I need to sustain me at this point. I don't want to read the same four comments that are in all like the forum posts about the Michigan sign stealing.
This is now this is starting to sound like the obsession people have with the Epstein files. Are you still talking about Connor Stalions?
The difference is that the NCAA will actually release their information on Michigan, whereas the Epstein files will never be released, because the people who have the ability to do so understand that they would then have to explain why so many names are on it that they know.
You're still talking about Connor Stalions. This guy's been off Michigan staff for years. There's so many things going on in college football.
Did you see? Look, I know we're not doing politics, but did you see that post he made on?
I haven't read all of it in detail.
It's like 500 words long, and it's just him so angry that people would care about something that he asked them to care about. And so the funniest thing to me is, and I guess and you do have like that comparison between the two, because it really is.
That's why I invoked it, even though I thought this is going to be kind of a sensitive thing, but the parallel's too obvious to me.
I think across the political spectrum, like people want to know, like they want to know. This
is a bipartisan issue. It really is.
And so I'm just saying in general, when people have a vested interest in understanding what really happened, right, and a controversial thing,
like what happened at Michigan.
Yes, it's up to the power. That's what I'm talking about. It's up to the powers that be, who have access to that information, to deliver it to the people. That's part of their job. That's kind of what they're supposed to do, right, as an authority. So I am just saying, I am very excited that the NCAA is going to deliver in a world where we don't always get that. Okay, no. So this isn't, I'm not making this a Trump thing or political thing. I'm just saying too many times, because Biden didn't release that stuff either. So I just want to point that out. Okay, it's been out there for a while. Nobody's released it. My point is that we live in a world where the Panama Papers, all this other stuff, you want to see people go down for things that they did wrong. That doesn't necessarily happen. At least at the end of this, there's going to be some kind of finality where it's like, okay, the NCAA is going to tell us what we want to, like, at least what they think. They're going to tell us what they know, and then something's going to happen. And if it's Michigan getting the death penalty, that would be hilarious. It's not going to be that, but it's going to be something. And so I look forward to that, because like I said, you don't always get that. You don't get that in life. So yeah. I'm excited about that. That'll be fun. Sorry, I'm not trying to be.
No, blame me. I'm the one that invoked the comparison. It was just too tempting for me, given the parallels.
But in general, again, removing politics from it, that I had the same thought too. That's something that people have a vested interest in, and they're not going to get it, and it sucks. And it's not just Trump. Like I said, it's Biden administration too. Powers that be have not.
But it isn't just that. It's to the point of what you said about the Truth Social post. The same emotional outrage was present in what Stalions was saying in response to the Sonny Dykes story.
That's right. You're right. Absolutely.
So it works on a lot of different levels. It
feels personal. Let me put it this way. It feels personal. It feels that people keep asking questions and that people keep wanting to know his involvement. It feels personal. I'm talking about Connor Stalions. So yeah, it's a story that I think we'll get some finality with, and I'm excited about that. I hope that it turns out the way that we, and by we I mean Ohio State fans, want it to end up, because it's been a long time coming. And Michigan has been super arrogant about this entire thing, which is really just one of the more irritating parts about it. Like if they're not ignoring it, they've been like actively downplaying it. If they haven't been actively downplaying it, they've been bragging about how awesome it is, which is contradictory and stupid. So I just kind of hope it bites them in the ass. But I've been kind of pessimistic about that throughout this whole thing. I would love to be proven wrong, but you know what? I don't think anybody knows at this point what's going to happen. So.
Well, I mean, and it would be, that's another reason I think the NCAA is delaying. Like, I mean, if nothing was going to happen, they would have just said already over the summer, so that it's not an issue going into the season. But if they wanted to make an example of Michigan because of this, and they've already been, for, I don't want to say similar transgressions, but they've been coming, but in cases where they have the opportunity to vacate program wins recently, like with what happened recently, I think at Oklahoma State, in terms of the punishment they levied against them, they did go as far as to have them vacate wins from when their violations were supposedly taking place. Like, feels like they were kind of setting a precedent with that. They're like, no, this is not something we'll shy away from if the opportunity is there and the proof is in what happened and we can come down on them for that. We're going to do it. If nothing was going to happen, you would think that we would have already heard about it by now.
Sure.
If you wanted to make an example of them and really twist the knife, you would let this linger in limbo for as long as possible up until you get to the latest point after their season has already started. And when they've already applied cognitive dissonance to this whole thing at every single turn and every new accusation, that it didn't have an impact on their success, or it's a nothing burger or what have you. And then they roll into their next football season, and the dissonance is still having them in a position where it's like, not an issue. We're focused on the next campaign. We don't care. And then right before their second game of the season, you drop the bomb on them. That, if I wanted to make an example of them, if I'm the NCAA, that's exactly how I would do it. And we're inching towards that reality. We're about 6 or 7 weeks away from that at this point. So I would like to see it. I'm still cautiously skeptical, as you've tried to explain to us as Buckeye fans that we need to be.
I'm just a pessimist, though. I don't want people to think that I have any special information or I'm smart at all, because I'm dumb as hell. I just again, I want things to work out. I just know that they very rarely do. That's all I'm saying. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I did think that Connor Stalions just going off at in the middle of the night was pretty funny.
He couldn't even wait until the next morning. Like, he had to do that in the middle on a weekend in the middle of the night. He had to do that.
Yeah.
That is a well-adjusted individual right there.
Look, he's in his basement. He's working on vacuums. He's got, he just got a time on his hands. He's good. When
are we going to hear about that? That's really what needs to be investigated.
That's actually the only thing that I care about, is knowing how well his vacuum cleaner business is doing. All right, let's do Ask Us Anything. But before we do that, we want to remind you that the Dubcast is sponsored by the Dry Goods Store at 11warriors.com. Shirts, hats, stickers, all kinds of great stuff. drygoods.11warriors.com. And there's some good new stuff out there too. I definitely recommend checking it out. Let's do Ask Us Anything. You can ask us anything by sending us questions to dubcast@11warriors.com. And we've got some great questions this week. First one is from Kevin, who says, guys, we decided football would be too schedule challenging for us this fall, and we'll go to a basketball game instead. The games are released, but not the dates or times. When will they come out? It's going to be a minute, Kevin. It's not, I don't think anytime soon. I don't think they do that, honestly, until like early fall. is generally when those dates and times come out for those games. And for some of them, it's going to be like a week ahead of time. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing with football. They decide, a lot of it's based on broadcast rights and stuff like that. And if they want to do like an 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock game, that's all decided sometimes like a week ahead of time. So it may be a minute, unfortunately, which sucks.
There was I did see there was another team. I think it was Indiana University, Indianapolis, posted their like first part of the schedule, and they're playing Ohio State on November 3rd in Columbus.
All right.
So we know that much at least. So I mean, if you want to keep an eye on like other teams posting their non-con schedules before Ohio State's comes out, you might be able to anticipate ahead of time. I don't know what time specifically that game's going to be, but I mean, if it's November 3rd, that's a Monday, so you would assume it's in the evening. So if you're hankering to be there at the opener, it's possible that's going to be Ohio State's in fact, there's no way that isn't Ohio State's season opener. I mean, you can't play like if November 1st is maybe they're playing November 1st on a Saturday, but the season doesn't start in October. I don't think it's in all likelihood, it seems pretty likely that that's going to be their first game is November 3rd.
Yeah.
So if you want to plan around that, go right ahead.
Okay. Next one here. This is from Matt from Charlotte, who said so we got one for each of us. All right. So first one's for you, George. All right. You've recently revealed living in South Carolina. Have you had to take a side in the Clemson USC rivalry? He says, I live in Charlotte, but work in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and found that Clemson fans will generally say something about my Ohio State mug or cup when I encounter them at work, but USC fans are more chill. So between that and 31-0, I would pick the Gamecocks any day of the week. So.
No, that's my experience 100%. It's been great. Like I started spending more time down here in around 2021. So after the 2020 CFP happened, when Justin Fields dropped 6 touchdown passes. So it was after spending the last decade kind of dreading having my Ohio State fandom be shown in any capacity to the Clemsonites down here. It's been very fun, shamelessly flaunting it in the face of all the South Carolinians and just kind of demanding that respect. Even before Ohio State won the most recent national championship, that playoff result just kind of spoke for itself. But the South Carolina fans that I've talked to have always been pretty cordial and respectful. And I've enjoyed, asking what do you think of Aaron Noland or given that he's made his way over there now. So they're willing to have a more rational football conversation with you than Clemson is. So that's why I try to even though I get the whole Big Ten SEC rivalry bit thing, there's still SEC schools that I have a reasonable amount of respect for. I've talked about before how Georgia's always got a soft spot in my heart just because I was born in that state.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't even really had any bad interactions with any of their fans. And same thing could be said about South Carolina. I've generally found them to be respectful, much more so than Clemson fans. And maybe the Woody Hayes incident has something to do with that, but that's before my time.
It's before a lot of people's time, yeah.
Yeah. So, but old feuds die hard. So, especially in the South. So, I can understand where they're coming from at the very least. But South Carolina Gamecocks fans, nothing bad to say about them. I much prefer them to the Clemsonites.
Fair enough. I think I would have a similar reaction. I haven't spent a ton of time in the South, but my sister, I've mentioned this before, she went to Vanderbilt, and I was wearing an Ohio State hat when I was we were moving her in or something like that, and some Vanderbilt fan was giving me crap, and I'm like, you're Vanderbilt. Like what the hell are
Well,
you
they're
trying?
the Harvard of the South.
I
Don't
guess,
know
but
if you
I'm
were
like,
aware of that.
but he was like trying to like talk some football smack. I'm like, dude, how many games have your team won combined in the last like 10
Are
years? Like,
you
give me a
not
break. Like, get
aware
on my
that we
face.
just beat Alabama for the first
No,
time?
this
in
was
40
years
years?
ago,
I
though.
know,
This is like 10 years ago. And I'm like, what the hell is like, get out of my face.
Do you know who Jay Cutler is?
That's right. God, it was even like, it had to have been 15 years. Oh my God. Anyway. Okay, so this one's for me. Matt says the Tour de France will have started by the time you get this email. So I want to challenge you to imagine that you've been asked by the Tour de France Foundation to create Big Ten style trophies to replace the established jersey system of yellow going to the overall winner or leader, actually. Green to the sprinter with the most sprint points, polka dots to the climber with most king of the mountain points, which, by the way, great name for a jersey. White to the overall winner, 25 years old or younger. So the best, they call it the best young rider. What odd bits of junk would be suitable replacements for the venerable jersey system? So
Wait, I have a quick question.
Yeah,
I thought they all take the same route.
They do.
Well, so then how would one person have more mountain climbing points than the other?
I'm so glad you asked, George. So basically, these stages, right? So the entire race is broken up into 21 stages, right? Each stage is a day.
Yeah.
And then they have like 2 rest days, I think, during the entire ride. Each stage is classified in a different way. And within its own stage, each parts of the stage are classified differently. So you've got sprint sections where it's a really flat area. You've got mountainous sections where they're in the Alps and they're going up, 10-degree grades and it's ridiculous and all this crap. And then you've got like, again, these other kind of classifications and whatnot. But the way they allocate points for the sprinters and the king of the mountain is they'll pick sections of each stage, and whoever completes those sections first gets points based on how they finished it. So if you're like leading the pack during a sprint stage, you're going to get the most sprint points for that section. And so then during the course of the tour, they add up all the points that you get.
Okay. So it's whoever did the most well on the highest quantity of mountain climbing stage.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. Or sprint sections or things like that.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense.
And part of that is because sprinting or mountain biking, sprinting, all this other stuff, it's all so highly like specialized. Like a lot of these guys are just good at that. Right. And so, I mean, they're obviously good at other things. They're great overall bicyclists, but that's what they specialize in. A lot of these mountain guys, they know they're not winning the Tour de France. They know they're not winning into the sprint stages. They're there to kick ass on the mountain sections and help like propel their team to victory. That's their whole thing. It's there's a whole system called domestiques, and I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, my point is that it's cool because there's a lot of like separate competitions within the main competition that you can kind of follow as you're watching the Tour de France. I've been watching the stages. They just did stage, I think 8 or 9 today. I think it was 9. But it's a lot of fun. It's cool to watch.
They're doing this while Wimbledon is going on.
I don't give a crap about Wimbledon. I don't like tennis. I have a lot of respect.
Wait,
for
I
tennis.
thought Wimbledon was in France. Is it not, or is it?
No,
in the UK?
that's in the UK. No,
okay,
it's British.
See, I'm classic American meathead. I don't know anything about any sport
it's not in
outside
South Carolina,
of the Big Four and MMA.
So. There you go. I have a lot of respect for tennis. Incredibly difficult sport. Just no appeal to me whatsoever. But anyway, if I were giving trophies, Big Ten style trophies, King of the Mountain, it would have to be something like the Aggro Crag from Global Guts on Nickelodeon. You know what I mean? Like something like the whole thing that's appealing about Big Ten trophies is that they're gigantic and stupid. And so like it would be like a glowing piece of that radical rock, I think, for like King of the Mountain. Youngest best young rider would be like a gigantic like platinum pacifier essentially that they could like wear around their neck, you know what I mean, like a wrapper. Like that would be super sick. I wouldn't necessarily want to replace the yellow jersey because it's so iconic, but I don't know, like make it something like a yellow hoodie or some quintessential or like a football jersey and really piss off everybody in France. I think that would be a lot of fun. But like I said, anything as like obnoxiously weird as a wooden turtle or a spittoon or a brass pig, like those are the kind of things that I
Oh,
think
you could do like one of the what's that French girl in the cartoons, Madeline? She's got
Madeline,
that
yeah,
big yellow poncho or
that's
whatever
right,
that she
yeah,
wears. That's
right.
what you should
There
replace
you
it
go,
with.
perfect. I
A
love
big
that, like
big
a giant
poncho.
hat.
Yeah.
And they have
Yes.
to wear it. They have to wear it while they're riding their bike.
Yes.
I think that would be perfect. I would love that. Um, all right, this next one here, this is from Kevin. More of a comment than a question, but in response to our discussion last week about the best atmosphere we experienced at Ohio Stadium, he said was 1977. Excuse me, 1977 Oklahoma Ohio State. Woody, Barry Switzer, Keith Jackson. Okay, the blimp was overhead, which was a big deal. He said a buddy of mine who was a drummer in the marching band said that when he came in the stadium for the ramp entrance, he could not hear himself playing. Loudest I've ever heard the place. Oklahoma recovered an onside kick, and we kicked a field goal as time expired. Or Huey, I guess. Yeah, Huey Von Schaman was the kicker for Oklahoma. He kicked a field goal as time expired for the Oklahoma win. So that sucks.
My dad's got a picture of that he took in the stands of that game that he
Oh,
got
really?
like blown up and framed, and it's sitting in the basement of my parents' house.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's thought about selling it, but it means too much to him, I guess. Sitting
Um,
there right next to his signed Archie Griffin jersey.
I just remember when Bo Bishop was, we had the 11 Warriors show on, I think at the time it was Time Warner. Uh, Kevin went on the show and Bo asked like, what was the most like scenic, like best experience you had at Ohio Stadium? And Kevin said, oh, Virginia Tech. And Bo was like, what is wrong
I
with
think
you?
I've seen the like it's like a
The
Slack
screen cap?
meme
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
we have of like him like kind of stiff arming Kevin or
Look,
whatever. Like, just stop talking, dude.
I
Like,
was at the Texas game in '05, and it was an unbelievable atmosphere, but it will never be my favorite because they lost the freaking game. I was 50 feet behind Ryan Hamby. I can't ever say that's
listen,
one.
I would expect nothing less from a guy with the taste to be friends with someone like Big Ryan and covet Arby's. So, go figure.
I mean, it's
That would
delicious.
be his favorite game.
Okay, so this one's from our good friend Alvin, who says, what are your top 3 favorite summer barbecue cookout food items? His are brats, chips, and guac, and watermelon. Which is
That's
brats
4
are elite.
things.
We're not answering your question, Alvin. Go to hell.
Disqualified.
I love brats. I'm a big brat guy. Watermelon. We've got a big one sitting in our refrigerator right now for me to cut up tomorrow, so I'm definitely gonna do that. I like a good just burger on a grill. Like, I'm a simple guy, man. I don't need fancy stuff. I just like a burger on a grill, some brats are a must have, and then like, yeah, watermelon, some kind of fruit like that you can just cut up and enjoy. That's all I need. I don't need anything fancy. I like baked beans, I guess, on a barbecue. Like, I'll have that, but I don't, I'm not a fancy pants kind of. People get so freaking snooty about barbecue, especially online.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, the
Oh yeah.
cattiest human beings on the planet are people like who rush to Twitter or whatever social media platform of your choice to diss somebody's barbecue. They are the cattiest people on the planet. And like, I don't ever want to talk about having a barbecue ever online because I know I'll just get like destroyed because I won't eat the right thing or whatever. So go to hell. Burgers, brats, watermelon. That's my 3.
Yeah, I like that. Growing up in the Midwest, it didn't really feel like that you had to deal with that a lot. But then you would go to other parts of the country that take more pride in it, like the Carolinas
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or Kansas City, or the worst people are the Texans.
Yeah,
Those
sure,
are the
yeah.
most for how like gritty and down to earth like Texas is portrayed to be. Those people are the biggest barbecue snobs I have ever come across in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like they just spit on any other interpretation anywhere else in the country of how it's done.
They do the
It's
same
absolutely
thing with chili,
ridiculous.
which is insane. Like, oh, it's got beans in it. That ain't chili. Like, shut up. No one cares what you think chili is. Nobody cares what you think barbecue is.
I hate beans. I hate anything with beans in them. I can't do it.
I hate beans.
I hate them.
I hate them.
The magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So let's have beans with every meal. But not me.
I think you fellers had enough.
Yeah. That was a saying. That was a saying my West Virginian grandfather always liked to invoke, just because it rhymed. I don't know. Does mac and cheese count as a barbecue food?
No.
You
can eat it.
I know a lot of barbecue places serve it.
Yeah, but it's not barbecue food.
It's not really a summer barbecue food.
It's not barbecue food unless you make it on a grill.
Okay. I can you make mac and cheese on a grill?
I mean, I guess you could, technically. You could put it in one of those aluminum pans. I don't know.
Yeah, you could smoke it, I guess, a little.
You can't make watermelon. Oh, yeah, I guess you can make watermelon.
People grill watermelon.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I've never had it. I don't feel like I need to go out of my way to have it, but I've heard of people doing that.
I like it.
I would say in terms of like meat item, I mean, yeah, you can't. It's hard to miss, but in terms of like the highest quality thing, I mean, I probably got to go with ribs.
I mean, ribs are delicious. Don't get me wrong. I love good ribs, but
burn ends are really good too. I don't know if you've had those.
I've had those. Those are good.
And you know, brisket is solid too. In terms of like a side thing, I haven't had it recently, but corn is solid. Well, you know, it's been grilled when you're getting it like the ears of corn and you're getting them grilled and buttered. If we're doing
Midwest rep, we got to mention grilled corn on the cob. I mean,
right?
Like that's. I mean, one of my favorite Midwest things is to go into a grocery store and see people shucking their own corn just because they let you do it. People are like, yes. They're just like taking all the silk off of it.
I'm a little more conscious about teeth sensitivity in my adult years than I was when I was a kid. So I don't think I could be attacking it the way that I did when it was on the cob when I was younger. But it was, still solid tasting stuff all the same.
Everybody's got their own recipe for boiling it. Yeah, no, it's great. And then you grill it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So this last one here is from Steve. Interesting question about NIL. So he says, we just saw Gavin McKenna, he's a ice hockey player, get a $700,000 NIL deal to go play at Penn State for a year until he's drafted. Apparently that was about double what Michigan State was offering. How do we get Landon DuPont, I don't know who that is, but I assume he's good, to Columbus next year and hopefully more exceptional status players down the road? Do you think there's any chance that they'll use a little bit of the NIL collective to get some elite hockey players to well, and then Steve says, in the grand scheme of things, $700,000 doesn't seem that crazy for a guy who might come once every decade. Hey, it is crazy. Okay?
That's adorable optimism.
And look, I love hockey. I obviously am on record as being much more into Ohio State women's hockey than men's hockey. But I enjoy both teams very much. And, Ohio State men's hockey had a great season last season. They're not dropping $700,000 on a recruit, particularly a guy who might just hop to the minors or straight to the NHL after a year. That's not happening. They don't give $700,000 to a lot of the dudes on the football team.
On the basketball team.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about like the order, like the lineup of who's getting what money, men's hockey is like 5 or 6, teams deep. Like they're not going to be high on that priority list, unfortunately.
Yeah. And forgive me, Steve, because I don't want to, it seemed kind of snarky when I was addressing your question initially, but in all seriousness, I mean, this was when we were talking earlier, I think it was this off season about how NIL legislature is going to end up affecting how athletic departments are like kind of not only in terms of what sports they're actually going to keep, but then also how they're going to allocate revenue sharing, we were talking about how it feels like a lot of sports are going to have to start picking their like priority. Not even
100%.
priorities, just priority in terms of remaining competitive with how much money is coming in from other surrounding schools. So we know Ohio State is, I don't want to say all the way in with football, but we know that is what the flagship athletic program is. And after that, they want to be reasonably competitive in basketball. And then from there, it's kind of competing for scraps, you know, but there's other schools by that same token that are going to be more interested in promoting their baseball teams or their wrestling programs or whatever country club sports they may be thriving in. So they're going to get more resources than a team that wants to be competitive in football or basketball or the other major American sports are going to get versus one that is willing to let those go by the wayside so that they can reinforce a traditionally strong program elsewhere.
So what's interesting about that to me is that Penn State has put in a ton of money into the wrestling program, right? Like obviously, I mean, they are the preeminent wrestling power in, college athletics today. They have been for many years. They will probably continue to be, right, because of how much money and who they have coaching and all that stuff. And they've put a ton of money in their hockey program too. Like their hockey arena is like state of the art and all this stuff, and they're giving $700,000 to McKenna. The thing is, though, is like I don't necessarily know what the return is on something like that, and eventually that's going to be a question that donors and other people are going to ask. Now, it could be that Penn State has some really wealthy guys with a lot of deep pockets who are saying, I want this hockey team to be great, and they're willing to just give that kind of money forever, right?
But there has to come a point where they ask themselves, how much more money can we give to James Franklin?
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, that point may come after the end of the season. We'll see. But I guess what I'm saying is that unless you have like a sugar daddy who's like saying, all right, I got unlimited cash, so I'm just gonna throw at you guys, that's not super sustainable. And I don't think Ohio State has someone like that for men's hockey, is my point, right? Like maybe these other places do, but Ohio State, I don't see that. And as a result, I don't see anybody dishing out $700,000 for a prospect. I just think that's absurd. And if that's the market, then Ohio State's just not going to be in it. And that sucks because you don't want to hear that. But I just think ultimately that's where it's at. Because again, football takes up so much of that air in the room when it comes to NIL stuff. So great question. I mean, I think people aren't necessarily aware of NIL and how crazy it's getting in some other sports. But it is, and it's getting super crazy. We're going to see how that evolves here in the next, year or so.
Well, and now we've got the SAFE Act up for review in the House of Representatives, or not the SAFE Act, the SCORE Act. Up for review.
That's right. And so they're going to review some of these NIL deals. They're going to people talking about salary caps. Deion Sanders was talking about that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes here. Right now, it's still the Wild West. That may not last. And maybe Ohio State's playing the long game here and saying, we're not going to just blow all this money just because everybody else is doing it.
But one of the other interesting things that's proposed in that bill is that apparently there would be a minimum requirement of like 16 varsity athletic teams for every program in the NCAA, which is largely viewed as a way to reinforce Olympic programs, I believe. But it's just interesting relative to what we talked about with athletic departments structuring themselves and just saying, we would rather just get rid of this sport entirely so that we can prop up the other one.
Right.
I mean, there's presumably, if you have an athletic department that is willing to do that for the sake of not only football, but perhaps the sake of propping up their men's hockey program, if that's where their bread is buttered, it's going to be hard for you to be competitive if you've already got first, second, third priorities that are above that the way that Ohio State does.
Right. And actually, this is something that we were going to talk about after Ask Us Anything, but I think this is kind of relevant to it, which is this was about a week ago, but LSU is trying to sell patches on their jerseys, right? So like that you've seen in basketball and you've seen in baseball and other stuff. They're gonna, they want a patch on there that they can generate some funding from, and that's coming. I know people like have a visceral reaction to that, but this is where we're at. And again,
I think we talked about this on the episode where we talked about Ohio State selling its naming rights in terms of the stadium.
Right.
Like we try to warn you guys about this stuff. We're not quite omnipotent the way Connor Stalions is, but we do see a lot of things well in advance of them happening. And don't just think it's going to be LSU, because if LSU is making a pretty penny off that, you don't think the other athletic directors are going to notice that and say, well, we got space on our jerseys we could sell too.
I just want to see the Buckeye Lees replaced with the Wendy's logo. That's just what I want.
What I want, because I just think about the ire. I don't really want this, but it would be funny to see the reaction is, people talk all the time about wanting the legacy sleeves back.
Oh, sure.
Imagine if they sell the ad space on the sleeves, obstructing any opportunity for the legacy sleeves to come back, so that
that would be great.
Nationwide Insurance or Huntington Bank is blazoned upon.
Look, I mean,
the scarlet jerseys.
I say this all the time. You're giving conferences $7 billion. The people who are buying that product want to recoup that money somehow, and that's how it's going to happen. So it's it is what it is. I mean, it sucks, but that's part of the job.
Listen, if Waffle House ends up on an Ohio State jersey, how could I be upset about that?
I wouldn't hate it. Even Canes. I mean, whatever, man. It's,
not my first choice, but I'll allow it.
Yeah. All right, so that's Ask Us Anything. Thank you guys for sending in those questions. Dubcast@11warriors.com. A couple things we want to end on. First of all, I did like the quote from Scott Frost. Somebody asked him, I guess, on their media days. He's now back at UCF, by the way. He said, what did he learn from Nebraska? Don't take the wrong job. Very funny to me, because Scott Frost was kind of a disaster at Nebraska in a lot of different ways. And the arrogance to say, oh, it's not my fault. It's just, it's that the situation there was just too toxic for me to succeed, is kind of insane. The complete inability to admit that he made a boo-boo is the
polar opposite of the Connor Stalions approach. I'm going to throw the school I love so much under the bus.
That's right. Wild. I thought that was a hilarious statement from him.
Incredible admission.
Yeah. Last thing real quick, I do have a personal item that I have to talk about. So next Dubcast is actually going to be my last Dubcast. So it's been about 15 years almost that I've been doing this. I've been with 11 Warriors for a long time, over 15 years at this point. And it's nothing bad, nothing sad. I just, I'm ready to kind of move on to a few other projects.
I'm sad.
I am sad.
I think I'm sadder than Johnny is, frankly.
I've been processing it for a while, but just kind of at a different stage of my life. But yeah, no animosity, no anger, none of that stuff. Nothing, no drama. Unfortunately, I know if people are like, oh God, what's the what's the tea?
If you're wondering, it's my fault. I've driven Johnny off of his show. He's fallen out of love with everything 11 Warriors and Ohio State football.
I've just become jaded and bitter, and I just hate everything.
And it's because he's had to put up with talking to me almost every week for the last 2 years. And he can't get over the fact that he brought me in to replace Andy Vance, and he's like, what kind of mistake have I made?
What hath I wrought?
Exactly.
Look upon my works, ye mighty, in despair. No, I mean, truth is just I've been doing this for a long time. At a different stage of my life now, much different stage of my life than I was when I started it. And I think honestly, in all seriousness, I think George, with you and everyone else on the site, it's in really good hands. And I'm just, I'm excited to see what you guys do with it. So, again, I'm excited to be going on and trying some new stuff out myself. And I'll probably talk about that a little bit more next week and maybe on the site a little bit in forums or whatever. But
we'll get into more sentimental stuff next week.
Yeah,
but
we'll do all that.
The important thing is make sure that you write in to ask us anything next week, because it's going to have to be a busy one. It is your last opportunity to get your 2 cents in to Mr. Johnny Ginter before he bids us.
If there's something that's been sticking in your craw, all right, now's the time to just really let me have it. All right. And I know there's a couple of you who would love to do that. So,
but listen, man, I know that you you really try to be humble in terms of everything that you've, done during your time here. But I just think about, like, earlier this week, our beloved Ramsey is checking off a bucket list item at Wimbledon right now. And he mentioned how, while he's over across the pond, that somebody that recognized him came over to him and was expressed how much fandom they have for 11 Warriors, and how much a role people like Kyle Jones and Johnny Ginter, he mentioned by name, have had an impact in that. So
I found that very funny that he did that, and also that I'm glad that the check cleared. I'm glad.
Look, man, you can downplay your contributions as much as you want to, but the fact is you are a core component of what this site was and what it has built itself up to be. And I am sad to see you go, and it will be, it'll be an emotional send-off for you next week. But I'm grateful for everything that you've done for me and including me in this, and I'm sure everybody listening to the show is grateful for you putting on what is probably the longest-running Ohio State podcast in the space. I know there's no shortage of listening options in this day and age, but nobody was doing it like Mr. Johnny Dubs all the way back in December of 2010. You are the OG, you are a pioneer, and you deserve to be recognized for that. And we will give you your flowers next week for your send-off.
Thank you, Mr. Eisner. I appreciate that. There's 2 guys in like Oakwood or something on a ham radio or so, and they're like, "You asshole! Like, we've been doing this since 1943." Anyway, we'll do all that next week. We'll talk about, stuff. But that'll be my last one, and I hope you tune in. And, if you got any questions for us, let us know. So anyway, until next time, I'm Johnny.
I'm George.
And we'll see you then.
Take care, folks.